Oh, welcome in, travelers. Oh my. Judging by the dirt on your attire, I dare say you had a bit of a scuffle with our local wolf population.
Yes.
They are beautiful creatures, but ferocious ones they are.
Yes.
An unsatiated hunger for adorable travelers, such as yourselves.
Sure.
You hear that?
Yes.
It's the howling of their biggest, baddest fighter. Likely their leader, their thane, if you will. I bet its hunger is almost as insatiable as my thirst for knowledge and of book readings.
Sure.
Speaking of wolves, it seems like a befitting time to bring up a certain octology within my collection. I had originally purchased this book in particular from 𝕱𝖑𝖑𝖔𝖈.
Who's that?
At the College of Winterhold.
Oh.
But the man did not have every single book, unfortunately. Therefore, I had to collect them little by little, time after time. Now then, surely, throughout your travels and or lives, whether you had a wealthy or middle-class upbringing, you must have come across the term the Wolf Queen, correct? You there, young lady with the brown hair. You look like an exquisite solitude lady of upper class.
Yes.
Surely, you must have heard of Potema, the Wolf Queen, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Ah, yes, naturally. High class and high knowledge. I like you. But you there, good sir, with the huge mustache, you don't quite give off the same, shall we say, air of confidence. That is all fine. I'm not trying to shame you or anything. Today, however, you can count your lucky stars, because today is the day where yours truly shall share upon you the knowledge and history of Potema, the Wolf Queen. It is the 63rd year of the 3rd era. In the autumn tide of the year, Prince 𝕾𝖔𝖈𝖎𝖆, son of Prince 𝕱𝖺𝖼 II, who is son of the Empress Kintyra, who is also the niece of the great Emperor Tiber II himself, came to the high rock city-state of Camlann to pay court to the daughter of King Volstead. Her name was Quintilla, the most beauteous princess in all of Tamriel. She was skilled at all the maidenly workloads, and an accomplished sorceress at that. 11 years a widower with a young son named Antiochus. Pelagius arrived at the court to find that the city-state was being terrorized by a great demonic werewolf. Instead of wooing, Pelagius and Quintilla together went out to save the kingdom. With his sword and her sorcery, the beast was slain, and by the power of mysticism, Quintilla chained the beast's soul to a gem. Pelagius had the gem made into a ring and married her with it. Let me just interrupt by saying, aren't all werewolves technically demonic in nature? Because you know, lycanthropy is known as her sign's gift or curse. Who is her sign? Well, he is a Daedric prince. What is a Daedric prince again? Demon lords of misrule, lords and ladies of oblivion, and commonly worshipped as gods. Therefore, all werewolves, should technically be demonic. Anyway, moving on. It was said that the soul of the wolf stayed with the couple until the birth of their first child. Curious. Let's see here. It is now the 80th year of the Third Era, 17 years later. The ambassador from Solitude has arrived, Your Majesty, whispered the steward Balbus. Right in the middle of dinner, muttered the Emperor weakly. Tell him to wait. No, father. It is important that you see him, said Pelagius, rising. You can't make him wait and then give him bad news. It's undiplomatic. Don't go then. You're much better at diplomacy than I am. We should have all the family here, Emperor Uriel II added, suddenly aware how few people were present at his dinner table. Where's your mother? Sleeping with the Archpriest of Kynareth, Pelagius would have said, but he was, as his father said, diplomatic. Instead, he said, at prayer, back to him. And your brother and sister? Amiel is in First Hold, meeting with the Archmagister of the Mages Guild. And Galana, though we won't be telling this to the ambassador, of course, is preparing for her wedding to the Duke of Narcissus, since the ambassador expects her to be marrying his patron, the King of Solitude, instead. We shall tell him that she is at the spa and having a cluster of pestilent boils removed. Tell him that, and he won't press too hard for the marriage. Politically expedient though it may be, Pelagius smiled. You know how queasy Nords are about warty women. But dash it, I feel like I should have some family around, so I don't look like some old fool, despised by his nearest and dearest, growled the Emperor, correctly suspecting this to be the case. What about your wife? Where is she and the grandchildren? Quintilla is in the nursery with Cephalus and Magnus. Antiochus is probably whoring around the city. I don't know where Potema is though. Probably at her studies. Thought you didn't like having children around. I do. During meetings with ambassadors in damp staterooms, sighed the Emperor. They lend an air of, I don't know, innocence and civility? Show the blasted ambassador in, he said to Balbus. Potema was bored. It was the rainy season in the imperial province, wintertide, and the streets and the gardens of the city were all but flooded. She could not remember a time when it was not raining. Had it been only days, or had it been weeks, or even months since the sun last shone? There was no judging of time anymore in the constant flickering torchlight of the palace. And as Potema walked through marble and stone hallways, listening to the pelting of the rain, she could think nothing but that she was bored. Ashtef, her tutor, would be looking for her now. Ordinarily, she did not mind studying. Rote memorization came easily to her. She quizzed herself as she walked down through the empty ballroom. When did Orsinium fall? The 980th year of the First Era. Who wrote the Tamrillian Tractates? Kosei. When was Tiber Septim born? The 288th year of the Second Era. Who is the current king of Daggerfall? Mortin, son of Goflir. Who is the current Sylvanar? Varbarenf, son of Varbaril. And who is the warlord of Lilmoth? Trick question. It's a lady, in fact. Loa. What will I get if I'm a good girl and don't get into any trouble at all. My tutor says that I am an excellent student. Mother and father will renege on their promise to buy me a Daedric katana of my own, saying they never remember that promise, and it is far too expensive and dangerous for a girl my age to have one. There were voices coming from the Emperor's stateroom. Her father, her grandfather, and a man with a strange accent, a Nord. 𝕱𝖆𝖈 moved a stone that she had loosened behind a tapestry and listened in on their conversation. "Let us be frank, your Imperial Majesty," came the stranger's voice. "My sire, the King of Solitude, does not care if Princess Galana looked like an orc. He wants an alliance with the Imperial family, and you agreed to give him Galana, or give him back the millions of gold he gave to you to quell the Khajiit rebellion in Torval. This was the agreement you swore to honor." "I remember no such agreement," spoke her father's voice. "Can you, my liege?" There was a mumbling noise coming out of her grandfather, the ancient emperor. "Perhaps we should take a walk to the Hall of Records. My mind may be going." The Nord stranger's voice sounded sarcastic. "I distinctly remember your seal being placed on the agreement before it was locked away. Of course, I may verily be mistaken." "We will send a page to the hall to get the document that you refer to," replied her father's voice, with the cruel, soothing quality he used whenever he was about to break a promise. 𝕱𝖆𝖈 knew it well. She replaced the loose stone and hurried out of the ballroom, and she knew well how slowly the pages walked, because she used to run errands for a doddering emperor, after all. She could make it to the Hall of Records in no time at all. The massive ebony door was locked, of course, but she knew what to do. A year ago, she caught her mother's Bosmer maid pilfering some jewelry, and in exchange for her silence, forced the young woman to teach her how to pick locks. 𝕱𝖆𝖈 pulled 2 pins off her red diamond brooch and slid the first into the first lock, holding her hand steady and memorizing the pattern of tumblers and grooves within the mechanism. Each lock had a geography of its own. The lock to the kitchen larder, 6 free tumblers, a frozen 7th, and a counterbolt. She had broken into that just for fun, but if she had been a poisoner, the whole imperial household would be dead by now, she thought, smiling to herself. Holy crap, this young lady is better at lockpicking than 𝕱𝖆𝖈. And I love how we bring that sleazy bastard up once again. Anyway, the lock to her brother, Sir Antiochus' secret stash of Khajiit. What? These damn nobles, I swear. At least it wasn't an Argonian maid this time around. Anyway, moving on. Just 2 free tumblers and a pathetic poisoned quill trap, easily dismantled with pressure, on the counterweight. That had been a profitable score. It was strange that Antiochus, who seemed to have no shame, proved so easy to blackmail. She was, after all, only 12, and the differences between the perversions of the cat people and the perversions of the Cyrodiils seemed pretty academic. Still, Antiochus had to give her the diamond brooch, which she treasured. She had never been caught Not even once. Not when she broke into the Archmage's study and stole his oldest spellbook.
Whoa.
Not when she broke into the guest room of the King of Gilan and stole his own crown the morning before Magnus's official welcoming ceremony. It had become too easy to torment her family with these little crimes. But here was a document the Emperor wanted for a very important meeting, and she would get it first. However, this was the hardest lock she ever opened. Over and over, she massaged the tumblers, gently pushing aside the forked clamp that snatched at her pins, drumming the counterweights. It nearly took her half a minute to break through the door to the Hall of Records, where the Elder Scrolls were housed. First I thought they had installed one of Jana's locks. Phew. Then go get the Elder Scroll, Potema. Don't care about the marriage paper, who cares about that? Get the Elder Scrolls. What are you doing? Get them. Anyway, the documents were well organized by year, province, and kingdom. And it took Potema only a short while to find the promise of marriage between 𝕱𝖆𝖈𝖎𝖑𝖘 II, by the grace of the gods, Emperor of the Holy Cyrodiilic Empire of Tamriel, and his daughter, the Princess Galana, His Majesty King Mantiarco of Solitude. She grabbed her prize and was out of the hall with the door well locked before the page was even in sight. Back in the ballroom, she loosened the stone and listened eagerly to the conversation within. For a few minutes, the three men, the Nord, the Emperor, and her father, just spoke of the weather and some boring diplomatic details. Then, there was a sound of footsteps in the distance, and a young voice. The page, Your Imperial Majesty, I have searched the Hall of Records and cannot find the document you asked for. There, you see, came Potema's father's voice. I told you it didn't exist. But I saw it. The Nord's voice was furious. I was there when my liege and the Emperor signed it. I was there. I hope you aren't doubting the word of my father, the sovereign Emperor of all Tamriel. Not when there's now proof that you must have been mistaken. Ladgiu's voice was low and sounded dangerous. Of course not, said the Nord, conceding quickly. But what will I tell my king? He is to have no connection with the imperial family, and no gold returned to him, as the agreement, as he and I believe the agreement to be. We don't want any bad feelings between the Kingdom of Solitude and us, came the Emperor's voice, rather feeble, but clear enough. What if we offered King Mantiarco our granddaughter instead? Potema felt the chill of the room descend upon her. The Princess Potema, is she not too young? Asked the Nord. She's 13 years old, said her father. That's old enough to wed. Ugh. She would be an ideal mate for your king, said the Emperor.
No.
Goddamn nobles, I swear. She is, admittedly, from what I see of her, very shy and innocent. But I am certain that she would quickly grasp the ways of court. She is, after all, a septim. I think she would be an excellent queen of solitude. Not too exciting, but noble. The granddaughter of the Emperor is not as close as his daughter, said the Nord, rather miserably. But I don't see how we can refuse the offer. I will send word to my king." "You have our leave," said the emperor, and Potema heard the sound of the Nord leaving the stateroom. Tears streamed down Potema's eyes. She knew who the King of Solitude was from her studies. Mantiarco, a 62-year-old man, and quite fat as well. And Potema knew how far Solitude was from the Imperial City, and how cold and miserable it seemed. In the northernmost clime. Her father and grandfather were abandoning her to the barbaric Nords. The voices in the room continued talking. "Well acted, my boy. Now make sure you burn that document," said her father. "My prince," asked the page's petulant voice. "The agreement between the Emperor and the King of Solitude, you fool. We don't want its existence known." "My prince, I told the truth. I could not find the document in the halls of records. It seems to be missing." "By Lorcan," roared her father. "Why is everything in this damn palace always misplaced? Go back to the hall and keep searching until you find it." Potema looked at the document. Millions of gold pieces promised to the Kingdom of Solitude in the event of Princess Galana not marrying the king. She could bring it into her father, and perhaps as a reward he would not marry her to Mantiarco. Or perhaps not. She could blackmail her father and the Emperor with it and make a tidy sum of money. Or she could produce it when she became Queen of Solitude to fill her coffers and buy anything she wanted, more than a Daedric katana, that was for certain. So many possibilities, Potema thought to herself. And she found herself not quite as bored anymore. And there you have it, my dear travelers and listeners. The first volume of the octology about Potema, the Wolf Queen.
Yay!
I must say though, so far, my initial reaction is that Potema is quite a clever, yet dangerous young lady. And her family are truly appalling. To send such a young lass away to be wed off as an afterthought. Nobility. Ugh. Never could I quite comprehend how they fought. Or think, for that matter. And that says a lot, seeing as I am a lord as well. I have, shall we say, first-hand knowledge and experience of the inner and outer dealings of the upper echelon of society. Now, I'm very curious about the next volume in question.
Yes.
And I have it right here with me. But now, I have to scare off a few wolves from my territory. I swear, if I lose another cow to one of these bastards, I am gonna flip my lid, figuratively and literally. Goodbye for now, dear travelers. May the gods watch over your battles, friends. And on that note, here I come, you howling horrors. Yeah, run away, little wolves. Better pray you reincarnate into something sweeter in your next life.